You're listening to the Fierce Fatty Podcast, episode 177, When a Loved One Hates Their Fat Body. Listener questions. I'm your host, Vinnie Wellesby. This is the Fierce Fatty Podcast. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Hello, welcome, fatties and fat allies, fierce fatties. Welcome. Hey, I missed you. Did you miss me? Well, I've been gone longer than you felt me be gone because I recorded a couple of episodes back to back and then haven't recorded an episode in like a month. So it's weird. I'm like, oh my God, I need to go talk to my friends. Yeah, so I'm excited to have a chinwag with you today. I was away in Ireland visiting my family for 2 weeks and now I'm back. So isn't it nice being able to, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but coming home from a holiday and being happy that you live where you live. Oh, Vancouver's that for me, like especially Vancouver Airport. And Vancouver Airport is so nice. It's got loads of indigenous art and like water features and stuff. And so coming home, it's like really relaxing and nice, and it's like, oh, I love where I live. I'm so lucky. Maybe you've not experienced that and you're like, shut up. What are you talking about? Yeah, because most of my life, going back to, not that I'd rarely go on holidays anyway, but going back to Peterborough would just be like, oh, or even the UK, I'd be like, oh. Yeah, so, and that was just my experience, right? Not everyone doesn't like the UK or Peterborough or whatever. Anyway, let's talk about Ko-fi. Ko-fi is where you can support me if you like to. And to get back to 4 episodes of the Fierce Fatty Podcast a month, we need $680 in subscriptions. So July 7th, we are at 210 with 32 subscribers. And August 25th, which is when I last looked a few days ago. So we were at 32 subscribers and 210. Now we're at 43 and 300. So we got an extra 60 in that month. Well, 6 weeks. We got an extra $60 in subscriptions and an extra 11 subscribers. So we're doing it like that. So let's get to 680. We can do it. You want 4 episodes of Fierce Fatty content a month like you're used to? Then go and donate on Ko-fi. The link is in the show notes or whatever, somewhere around where you're listening. I don't know where it is. Or just put Fierce Fatty Ko-fi into the Google, and you'll find it probably. I don't know. Or go to Instagram, link in bio. I don't know. You'll find it somewhere. And if you donate, you'll get free shit. Free shit, like the size diversity resource guide, which is amazing. You know, I did create it, so I'm biased, but it is really fucking good. When I was making it, I was just like, oh. And it was years in the making, right? Collecting all these sources and da-da-da-da. So, you know, places to shop, podcasts to listen to, books to read, science, everything amazing, TED Talks. So if you want more fat liberation in your life, and why wouldn't you? Then go check it out. And you can get that for $5. And you can either do $5, $10 or $20. And obviously the higher value, the more benefits you get. So I want to give a shout out to my supporters. Let's have a look. Let's have a little looky. Okay, so shout out to the Ko-fi supporters Leanne, Debbie, Sarah, Monica, Thomas, Irene, Beth, Josie, Vanessa, Lindsay, Laura, Renee, Rachel Scientist, Emma, Cassie, Kathy, Louise, Stephanie, Melanie, Fantaf, this is there's a tongue twister. Fantaglyphs. Jane, Shay, Elizabeth, Joe, H, W, Jessie, Jenna, Amy, Steph, Linda, Laurie, Kath, Jess K, Pax, Allison, Deb, Hannah, Ave or Ave, Gina, Maria, Nadia, Janine, and Nora. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. You rock my world. I can't tell you how happy when I get a little email saying, someone's donated. I'm just like, oh, I love you. You're the best. So yeah, today's episode, I sent an email out and said, what questions have you got? Also, I collect, like, sometimes when people message me on Instagram, my assistant will forward them to me and then ask them if you want to be included on questions for the show. Anyway, and so some are inboxes and some are, I sent an email and some people replied. So we've got a number of different questions today, and I love them. So juicy. You know, it was, I love it when you have these questions about your life. So let's start. We've got Emma, who says, hi, with 2 exclamation marks. Emma's excited. Absolutely love your content. I've learned so much. Thank you, Emma. I have a question for you. My mother is slowly starting to be unwell, not being able to walk, knee problems, eating, quote, unhealthy, her words, not mine. And she insists all the problems are because she is fat. I keep trying to tell her that it's internalized fat phobia to assume being fat is making her unhealthy. And a better motivation than weight loss would be concentrating on feeling good, finding enjoyable movement, and working on her relationship to food, etc. And she keeps not listening. I mean, she listens, but then claims that she knows more about nutrition. She means weight loss because she's tried all of the diets, LOL. And says, I have no idea what it's like to be fat. Fair enough. How would you start educating someone who is fat and claims it to be the reason for health issues because a bunch of fatphobic doctors told her so? Woo! I bet you a lot of people in listening are dealing with something similar. And this is so hard, right? So thank you, Emma, for sharing. I think your mum is lucky to know you, and I thought I'd share something that I see with my one-on-one clients who are in sometimes the newer stages of fat liberation. When I say new, I mean like probably a couple of years or less in, although, you know, people who are more, you know, being in the fat liberation world for longer could also experience something like this. So, and this was my experience too. So what happens is in our lives, we discover fat liberation or anti-diet or intuitive eating, and it's amazing, right? It's like, for me, it was this, holy fucking shit. What? Why has no one told me this? You know, for me, it was discovering Reagan Chastain's blog, Dances with Fat. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Immediately done. That's it. Moving forward. It changed my life. You might wonder why it took you so long for you to know this stuff, and you're gobsmacked and excited and maybe scared. And, you know, it's the start of a whole new thing, right? So you engage in fat liberation and anti-diet and intuitive eating, and your life does get better. And so you want to tell everyone because they are going to be gifted with this magical thing, and they can let go of diets and fat hate, etc., and they can feel good like how you're feeling. All they need is for you to share what you know, or a book, or an IG account, or a podcast, and they'll be bathed in light and start dancing like, if you've ever seen Blues Brothers, Jake in the Blues Brothers movie, he's like, I see the light, and he starts dancing. Basically he sees God or whatever. But, you know, this is what I thought. You know, I'd be like, oh, you should read this book. And then people would be like, oh my God, Vinny. Oh, thank God for you. You've changed my life, you know. But what happens is almost certainly not like that. And there are many reasons for it. It's not that you're saying the wrong things or recommending the wrong accounts or whatever. you were in the perfect place to hear about fat liberation and anti-diet messaging, right? Perhaps you'd heard it before and you took no notice or poo-pooed it. It's like certain steps in the puzzle had to be taken for it to be relevant to you. You know, like, oh, what is that show? I was watching it in Ireland. Catchphrase? Where they have all the puzzle pieces on the board and it's like there's some image and it is a catchphrase. I'm like, it's a catchphrase. And then those puzzle pieces will be revealed and eventually you're like, oh, it's this. But before that final piece is revealed, you're like, I don't know what that is. And so, you know, there was another final puzzle piece was put into place and you were like, oh, fat liberation, anti-diet, intuitive eating, that's for me. So, you know, perhaps you'd been on 101 diets and diet 102 pushed you over the edge into looking into something different. Perhaps you had been in therapy for years and worked out blaming your fat body for how it looked was not working for you. And then you randomly saw a fat liberationist anti-diet message and it clicked. But say you were on diet 97 and someone came to you and said, oh my God, have you heard of fat liberation? You might say, I know more about nutrition than you. And if I just lose weight, I'll be healthy. So the third stage is really getting into proselytizing. I'm going to break this down. Someone's listening being proselytizing. Proselytizing. Thank you. Thank you, Google, for breaking it down for me. Proselytizing. The third stage is proselytizing about fat liberation and hearing crickets and feeling dejected, right? So you're excited, you tell other people, they're not excited, they might be like, go away. Maybe there is people who are excited, but, you know, you're hearing crickets or you're hearing pushback and you feel dejected, annoyed, and perhaps angry or sad because you can see the pain that they are in, you can see the path ahead. You know that if they just did what you told them to do or read that book or listened to that podcast, they would feel so much better. Why are they so stubborn? Right? And so the fourth stage is coming to the realization that people are on their own path. And you can talk about what feels good for you if they consent to advice. And you can set boundaries about what you want to hear, what's acceptable for you to hear. Like, you know, if someone's talking about how fatness has made them sick or whatever. But you can't actually force someone to do what you want them to do. I know, I'm sorry. We can't force people to do what we want them to do. It's so sad. It's their own journey, right? So, you know, perhaps in the future they'll see you happy, intuitive eating, not hating your body and think, maybe they're onto something. Or maybe not. And maybe it's you know, and, you know, that can be painful. So sitting in that grief and pain and protecting your own well-being is where a lot of people land. So basically, it sucks. It sucks. It's complicated. You know, I feel like for me, what feels good is just living my life. And if people want to take that as an example of what not to do or what to do or what might feel good, then that's great, you know, but I can't force anyone to not be, you know, to be hating themselves. I can't stop them doing that. And, you know, and at the beginning of this, I'd be like, say to people like, hey, you know, I've got this course and, you know, or, you know, why don't you read this book? Or, just, you know, thinking, it's just going to fall in place for them. But they're not at that place. They might not ever be at that place. So I just have to look after myself and also put boundaries. So to answer your question, Emma, which was, how do you start educating someone who is fat and claims it's the reason for the health issues because fatphobic doctor told her? If they don't consent, then if they don't consent to education, it's not your place to do so. You can say things like, would you like to hear about this resource that shows you how to treat XYZ without stigma around body size? And if they say no, then okay, no problem. If you ever want that, let me know. You know, if your mum says, I need to lose weight, as my doctor says that's why my knees are sore, you could say, I'm so sorry you're experiencing that. I wish doctors would not blame weight on everything. There are treatments outside of losing weight that are helpful. Do you want me to send you a link? Or just, I'm sorry, you deserve evidence-based care. And after the first time of asking if she wants your opinion about this, and she says no, don't keep like saying, keep on saying things, because it could feel really badgering, and it might, push her away from a connection with you or from discovering this type of stuff. Just be there for her, and also set boundaries for your own well-being, because, if she's talking about this a lot, I mean, for me, I wouldn't be able to deal with that long term. So sorry, Emma. It was kind of a complicated, not so perfect kind of answer. Yeah, can't we just mind control people? Okay, next question. Hi, Vinny. I have a silly question. I'm considering a dual citizenship with Canada. I'm moving here if it becomes unsafe for me to exist in my home country, the US of A. But the idea of immigration medical exam kind of scares me because they mention weighing. No bueno, as I have a history of eating disorders. Can you ask them not to weigh you, or for a blind weighing? Also, feel free to share this question on an episode if you see fit. Thanks in advance, Violet. Okay, so immigration processes can be discriminatory towards fat people. As far as I know from my research, Canada is not one of those places. One of those places is New Zealand, in case you're curious. So my experience with the medical exam, bearing in mind this is 10 plus years ago, is that I had a chest x-ray, then a doctor listened to me breathing and then talked about Malcolm Gladwell, the book that I was reading, to fill the time. It was really kind of like nothing. However, I did have a smaller body then. I was probably a small fat at that time. I don't remember being weighed, but they must have, because in the things that in online, when it tells you about what they're looking for, it does say one of the first things, literally the first thing is they weigh you. Why? Fat phobia. But they are not looking at someone's weight as a reason to deny them. I was looking on people sharing their experiences, and no one said that weight was a criteria that they were denied for. Everyone who said that they had a very large body said that they got it. What they're looking for is communicable diseases. So things like tuberculosis. They might be looking for things like syphilis, or other things that could affect other people, or they're looking for if there is an excessive demand from the healthcare system, and what they define that is in 2023, $128,445 over 5 years, or $25,000-ish a year. Yeah. So to answer your question, I think they will have to weigh you. I would be hesitant to say, I don't want to be weighed because I have a history of eating disorder, because I wouldn't want them to write that down. And I wouldn't want them to have any type of reason to be like, well, that's going to cost us money, So I would just be like, I don't want to see the weight. So when you get in, if they say, we'll weigh you, just say, can I not see the weight? And not mention why. And, the whoever is weighing you is probably going to be a massive dickhead if they say, no, I'm going to force you to see it. But then again, I don't remember being weighed, But then again, I had a smaller body, so maybe it wasn't that more dramatic. Maybe you do a self-report weight, in the waiting room. They're like, what's your height and what's your weight and all that type of stuff. What medications are you on? I just remember being like in the room with the doctor being like, literally, this is so funny how little he is interested in checking my well-being. Because you had to take your clothes off and wear a gown, from what I remember. Because I remember being like, this is so silly. He's literally just chatting to me about Malcolm Gladwell. I feel like this is a bullshit test, which is good. That's fine for me, So anyway, next question. Hi there. My mum has been referred to a weight loss surgeon and program in order in order to lose weight to get a surgery for her knee. And I was wondering if you had any research on the negative and dangerous side effects of weight loss surgery. From Deanna. Yes, Deanna, we absolutely do. I have 4 episodes on weight loss surgery, starting with episode 90. Links for everything in the show notes, but to find the episodes that I'm talking about, you can just go to fiercefatty.com/ the episode number. So for 90, it's 090. So episode 90, will weight loss surgery make you thin, healthy, and live longer? Episode 122, stories from weight loss survivors, patients 8 years post-op. Episode 126, stories from weight loss survivors, part 2. Episode 165, weight loss surgery stats and stories, part 3. If you want more digestible content, I have an Instagram post that goes over weight loss surgery facts, and also an Instagram post with stories from survivors. Let me just read out some facts for you, if you want them just at the top of your brain. Okay, so will it extend your life? 4.6% die within a year, 7.5% for men, 6.4% by 4 years, and 15.8% by 8 years. 3 out of 1,000 die within 30 days. Increased mortality risks are times 7 in year 1, and 250% to 363% by year 4. Will it make you thin and healthy? 2 years after the surgery, 46% have regained weight, and by 4 years, it's 63%. No randomized controlled clinical trials that have shown any long-term improvements to actual health or that lives are saved or extended. Complications, 20 to 25% of gastric bypass patients develop life-threatening complications. 89% of patients had at least one adverse event, 1/3 of them severe. 56% of bariatric patients had 62 different gastrointestinal complications and abnormalities, double the risk of substance use issues, and 4 times the increase of death by suicide. Most insurance companies won't pay for the procedure, which costs between $15,000 and $25,000, one of the most lucrative specialities for doctors. Fun times. But saying that, sometimes healthcare is held by ransom. So with your mum, I think you said it was your mum. With your mum, it could be that she has to in order to get the surgery. However, there are ways to advocate for evidence-based care. If there are bariatric surgeons who are able to safely sedate, anesthetize fat patients, can we not get those same anesthesiologists to be present for knee surgery? The answer is yes, we can. And it is just the knee surgeon's lack of skill that means, the anesthesiologist lack of skill that means that they are not able to safely anesthetize someone in a larger body. And so that is not acceptable. So there could be advocating for finding someone who will do it on higher weight patients, and that's absolutely something that is possible. It's not out of the realms of reality. However, it could be difficult depending where you are. And again, the same with what Emma's post is. Although we can say, I think this is a bad idea, again, your mum has body autonomy, and she could decide that that's the best choice, even if she doesn't agree with it, even if she doesn't agree with having to do weight loss surgery. Because, it's just, knee pain is not improved with weight loss. It makes me so annoyed. And so this surgeon is saying, it's not safe for me to operate on you, so you need to go and get another operation with loads of risks for me to then be able to operate on you because you have a smaller body. And it's just fucked up. So sending love to your mum. I hope everything works out. Okay, next question. Hey, Vinny, my question is, isn't it actually unhealthy to be fat? And if it's not, how do you explain to others, like family members and friends, that it's not? Thanks, Melanie. Okay, so I want us to remember a couple of things for when this health question comes up, okay? I want it to kind of remember the couple of things so that it's easy, so you can feel relaxed when these types of debates come up if you want to engage in them. I'll tell you what those are, and I'm just going to give a little kind of preamble, but I'll tell you what they are. So fatness in and of itself has not been shown to cause, that word is really important, cause poor health outcomes. Fatness has not been shown to cause poor health outcomes. With all the research around fatness, we have no causal relationships there, okay? Which is very remarkable, okay? So fat tissue, adipose tissue, is not this thing that makes fat people sick. Now, someone might say, hang on a minute, there was this study that shows that there was fat mice had like free radicals going around their bodies. We're not mice. We're different creatures. We have no data that talks about that in humans at all. No causal mechanism there. So what we do know is that there are links found with dieting, which are shame and stigma, subpar or denied healthcare, and dieting that have a causal relationship with worse health outcomes. So for example, if a fat person cannot access an MRI machine because the local machines available only fit small bodies, and therefore a diagnosis is missed or delayed because they can't find a suitable machine, is it the fat person's fatness that causes the poorer health outcome? Or is it the systemic anti-fatness at play? It's the latter, right? Their fatness has not caused them to have a delay in diagnosis, not being able to get treatment, seek treatment, being denied treatment. It is anti-fatness, right? So we also have a lot of studies on the O-word paradox. The O-word paradox being basically, hang on a minute, we thought fat people were like dying left, right, and centre, and you know, fatness causes all these diseases, but it turns out fatness is protective, and also fat people have a reduced mortality. It's a paradox, you know, and there's more and more studies keep coming out that say this. I mean, they should just get rid of the paradox thing, you know, because it's just like, could it be independent factors that causes someone to have different health outcomes versus this arbitrary physical characteristic of body size, you know? It's like if people study like, oh, do green eyes versus blue eyes, do green-eyed people have worse outcomes than blue-eyed people? And some studies, it's a paradox. Apparently blue-eyed people do have better outcomes sometimes, and sometimes they don't. What's it got to do with anything? The eye color, you know, whatever. So anyway, so we've got lots of studies on this. One huge systematic review and meta-analysis shows fat folks have reduced mortality compared to, quote, normal weight people. Quote from the study, 97 studies were retained for analysis, providing a combined sample size of more than 2.88 million individuals and more than 270,000 deaths. I'm going to put a link to this in the show notes to the study, but Harriet Brown kind of summarizes what it says in a piece called The O Word Crisis is a Myth. So Catherine Flegel, who is one of the co-authors of the paper, an epidemiologist at the CDC, so CDC, Center for Disease Control's National Center for Health Statistics, set out to map the relationship between BMI categories and mortality. They expected to find a linear relationship. The higher a person's BMI, the greater their risk of dying prematurely. But that's not what they found. Instead, Flegel and her colleagues discovered what statisticians call a U-shaped curve. At the bottom of the curve, the lowest risk of death falling around 25 to 26 on the BMI chart, making the risk of early death lowest labelled for those weight. People considered mildly O had roughly the same risk of dying as those in the, quote, normal category. Death rates went up for those either end of the scale, underweight and severely O, but not by much. The differences we're talking about are overall pretty tiny, explains Flegel. As soon as Flegel's analysis appeared in the Journal of the American Medical Association, the excrement hit the air conditioning. Other researchers claimed her work was shoddy, that she'd left out important data. They said there was no way her results could be accurate. S.J. Olshansky, a professor of epidemiology at the University of Illinois, Chicago, responded with a journal article arguing that rising fatness rates would shorten lives by 2 to 5 years. That statistic got a lot of attention and is still floating around today, despite the fact that it has been utterly and thoroughly debunked. As one of Olshansky's co-authors, University of Alabama, Birmingham biostatistician David B. Allison told a reporter from Scientific American, "These are just back-of-the-envelope plausible scenarios. We never meant for them to be portrayed as precise." See, funny how those types of things, those little sound bites, they get picked up and that's it. It floats around, you know. But reports like these, which are grounded in opinion and clear agendas rather than fact, feed in an increasingly hostile and confusing public conversation around weight. At the very least, we're being taught that dieting is benign, something that can't hurt us even if it doesn't really help. The truth is, dieting is actually harmful for many of us for all sorts of reasons, and it doesn't make most of us thinner or healthier. The cure has become worse than the disease. This is making me think, I'm trying to rack my brain of the program. It might have been like Married at First Sight. There was this woman that was saying, I think she was saying sugar is more addictive than heroin. This is like in the recesses of my mind. I watched Married at First Sight Australia, the whole, I think it's the 10th season, the most recent season, during my time off. And oh god, it fucked with my body image. But it's like, you know, like you decide, you're like, fuck it, you know, I'm just gonna watch this show and get all the trashiness, and then like detox my brain by watching things which have different people in it. Anyway, this is gonna wreck my. Where is this from? And the people at the table were like, what is wrong with you that you think that is more addictive than an actual drug like heroin? If anyone knows what I'm talking about, message me and tell me, because that's going to wreck my brain, because I would want to do put that into like a little soundbite. Anyway, so anyway, back to the question, instead of talking about Married at First Sight, but you know, that was. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about Married at First Sight. It's bad for body image, but if you want to watch it, it was entertaining. But you do need to like be cautious with the amount of thin people who all look the same. Anyway, so are fat people healthy? So for me, if fat people are healthy or not healthy is a moot point. What if every single fat person was unhealthy? What then? Should we deny unhealthy people care, kindness, their humanity? No. So is there any way that fat people can reliably become thin people? Because people will say, well, you know, they should just lose weight. Well, there is no reliable way for fat people to become thin people. So what's the solution? Shame fat people into behaving in a way that a fat phobe is comfortable with? Basically, what this comes down to is comforting the feelings of body biggers. They would feel better if every fat person was groveling for forgiveness for existing and performing health by only eating carrots and never leaving the house, or existing online, or being on a treadmill for 5 hours a day. And even then, if the fat person dares raise their head and advocate for themselves, it will disgust the fat phobe. So the thing is, if someone's fat phobic, there's no winning, right? Because, you know, you can argue and say fat people can be healthy and fat people can be unhealthy. But, you know, like, where are we going to go with this? You know, what's your solution? Eugenics? Like, what are we doing with this? You know? So for me, if a relative asked me, are fat people healthy? I would tell them the above, if they were interested, maybe. And also ask, do you think it's appropriate to treat unhealthy people unkindly? Because that will tell me all I need to know about whether I want to engage with that person further. So to answer your question, are fat people unhealthy? Yes. Are thin people unhealthy? Yes. Are fat people healthy? Yes. Yes. But what is health? You know? Are thin people healthy? Yeah. Yes. But what is health? Like, it's just such a complicated topic. What is health? Being free from disease is a dictionary definition, but, you know, what these people who are saying are fat people are unhealthy, they're not thinking about a holistic view of health. They're thinking, do they have diabetes? Do they have high blood pressure? You know, do they disgust me? Because if they disgust me, then it's a problem. But if that fat person is depressed or is experiencing terrible weight stigma, well, don't care about that. They're fat. You know? Okay, so next question. Hi, Vinny. I tried searching on your website, but I don't think it was working. I also searched surgery because I know you did an episode on it and I didn't find anything. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I was just diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and I was wondering if you had an episode about that from an anti-diet, fat-positive standpoint. If not, that's my question. Best, Lee. Thank you, Lee. Yeah, sorry the little searchy thing doesn't work. But anyway, I just, in one of the other questions, I just put out a list of all of the ones on surgery, on weight loss surgery anyway. So sending a ton of love to you as you navigate this new diagnosis, Lee, especially because the shame and stigma around fatness and type 2 diabetes is horrible. And for many, it's actually worse than the actual condition. So, and I've not done a whole episode on it, and I feel like that's probably because other people speak better about it than me, because I've no lived experience with it. But good news, there's about a bajillion resources. Well, not as much as a bajillion, but probably like 40 resources. So just the other day, happens to be, before I read your message, Marilyn Wan, I'm friends with Marilyn Wan on Facebook, and also Marilyn Wan profile is public, if you're not friends with her, but she asked a question, what are the new groups on type 2 diabetes and fatness, you know? And so people gave her some links. There are a couple of links. They didn't give, a couple of people put the name of the group, but I wasn't able to find them because I think they're private groups, and if they're a private group, you can't search them, is what I think. So if anyone has names to these two groups, links to these two groups, please send them to me and I'll add them to the show notes. But the first one was non-dieting diabetics. And the next one was called Fat Sugar Babies. So if anyone is in those groups, send me a link so I can share that with other people. But I do have the links for these two groups called Diet Free Talk for Diabetes / Insulin Issues and Fat Positive Intuitive Eating Diabetes Community. So in the show notes, there's going to be a link. Again, the show notes, fizzfatty.com/177 for episode 177, or just look around wherever you're listening to this. Other people have left other comments. One said, I attend a free virtual weight inclusive diabetes support group, and that's hosted by Laura Newman, RD. It's moderated by some awesome folks, and I've always had a good experience there. Very thoughtful, anti-diet space. Linley Ashlyn has a whole blog post, which is 25 plus weight neutral and health at every size resources for managing diabetes. Link for you there. And there's loads of stuff on there. I was scrolling through. I was like, "Oh, this is great." This was a 1-minute search on the internet, and I found these already. I probably know where to look though. I know what's if I see the word body liberation photos, I know it's Linley, and so I know it's safe. We've got lots of different things like articles, books, other resources. literally all sorts of stuff. Too much for me to mention here, so go find that link. Also, HAES health sheets, which is my go-to for everything. There's HAES nutrition handouts by Megan. I always wonder how to say her name. Cichy. C-I-C-H-Y. Cichy. Google says Cichy, so it's probably wrong. So Megan Cichy, I think it's Polish. Has got a nutrition handout, doobly-doo. But let's have a look at HAES health sheets, because that kind of gives us an overview for those who are curious. So it goes up, what is it, what causes it, how's it diagnosed, how's it treated, what about pre-diabetes. I just realised I totally forgot to tell you the 2 points. That question, which was, are fat people unhealthy? The 2 points to remember. You don't need to remember statistics and CDC study and this and that. First point is, what if every single fat person that walked the earth was unhealthy? What then? Do we round them all up and, what are you suggesting? Eugenics? Like, what if? What if? Well, then the person will say, we'll put them on a diet. Okay, point 2, we've close to 100 years of evidence that there is no way for the vast majority of people to lose weight. It's not even like maybe we do have some evidence it's not good. It is so overstudied and so well established that we do not have any way, and that includes surgeries and pills and injections, we do not have any way to make fat people into thin people long term for any more than a tiny percentage of people. Okay? So that's not like, and if someone says, well, that can't be true, ask them, okay, find one study which shows weight loss for even 10% of the people. A tiny amount for more than 5 years. They can't find it. It does not exist. Doesn't exist. Loads of studies to show if you do this or that or whatever, you'll lose weight temporarily. So anyway, that's the 2 points is, are fat people unhealthy? Yeah, they're healthy and they're unhealthy. And what is health? But what if they are unhealthy? What if all fat people are unhealthy? There's no way to make fat people thin people. Okay, so that's the 2 points you need to remember. So you don't need to debate on fat people, they all have this condition and that condition, and fat people are terrible and fat people are greedy. And okay, so let's just presume every single fat person is really, really deeply unhealthy. Are they suggesting eugenics? If so, I don't think I want you in my life, because that's fucked up. Okay, so anyway, we were talking about HAES health sheets. So just a kind of quick overview of type 2 diabetes. What causes it? A number of factors can contribute to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, including weight cycling, yo-yo dieting, and internalized weight stigma. But type 2 diabetes is predominantly a genetic condition. While much fat-phobic misinformation floats around, you cannot eat your way into type 2 diabetes. It affects people of all sizes. You've done nothing wrong for it to happen, la la la. That resource from Linley is, so many of them are posts from nutritionists who were saying, sugar does not cause type 2 diabetes. It is not your fault. Type 1 diabetes is not the diabetes where it's not your fault and type 2 is your fault. That's not true. It's not true that you're not allowed to eat carbohydrates. It's not true that you can't do intuitive eating. Like, just so many things of like, and there's so many of them is about sugar, because it's just so, the stigma around it. Really, I really want people to not feel that stigma. And with pre-diabetes, which is a bullshit made-up condition. If you want to know more about that, go check out the links in the show notes. Okay, so this episode is getting pretty gigantic, and so I'm going to have to split it into 2 episodes. So let's leave it here for today, and then we'll continue with the questions in next episode 178. And if you appreciate the work that I'm doing in fat liberation, reminder, go to Ko-fi, KOFI, link in the show notes. And just donate or not, whatever. I ain't the boss of you. You do you. As we've established, we can't force people to do anything. But if we get to $680, then we will be able to have 4 episodes a month. And that would be great, because I miss it when I'm not talking to you. It's like you're my friends and you're not here. Anyway, and also maybe you like the content. I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You probably do if you're listening this far. Anyway, whatever. I'll stop talking. See you in a while. Alligators, stay fierce, fatty. Have a wonderful fat positive day.